out as something different a year ago or 2 years ago. It may have been about just an alternative to mainstream Republicans, but it has clearly morphed into ultimately an anti-Jewish, anti-everybody, hate-filled movement. So I've said, hey, you guys have free speech rights. I've said the alt-right has free speech rights to go give their talks on public grounds. But I've said if your movement is based on hate, I completely want nothing to do with it. And I said if you want to throw Nazi salutes, I don't want anything to do with you. Don't come to my event. Stay far, far away from me. The media, though, they call me alt-right to this day.
For people who vote for Donald Trump to get lumped in with white supremacists and extremists, it's true in a lot of regards because you have the KKK who are marching the morning after Trump won the election. You have alt-right groups and groups that call themselves hate groups that are holding up Trump signs at their rallies. There were Trump signs in Charlottesville, right? Living in America as a black man, I'm constantly traumatized. I'm traumatized by the statistics that I see. I'm traumatized by what I watch on the news when black people are choked to death. I'm traumatized by what I see on social media, black men being shot in front of their families by the police and nothing happening, black men with full carry weapons permits. I'm traumatized. Where's the help for my trauma? Who's addressing my needs psychologically? These are things we don't look at. I'm a freedom fighter, I'm a revolutionary, I'm a Christian, I'm a proud American. Although people won't admit to it, America is a very racist place. It was founded on racial practices, and these practices still exist today. Maybe to the extent that not to the extent that they were before, but these racist practices still exist. And if you are a Christian, if you are American, you can look at the facts and say, yes, this is true.
That's the mantra and the message of protests around the country.
If only Black Lives Matter, then Black Lives Matter not have to say it.
A black person gets killed by the police under questionable circumstances. Black people rally. The cop goes to court, and no matter how questionable, it always seems as though the cop walks away. Does this always happen? No, sometimes the cop gets convicted, but it just seems to be a reoccurring theme.
There's an aspect of Black Lives Matter which is well needed, very well needed, and that is police misconduct, militarization of police force.
The average person there, what do they know about us, right? They know what the media tells them. They say BLM is anti-cop.
Boy, do we have an atrocious case of the media twisting things in order to lead people in the wrong direction. It happens to be a Fox affiliate in Baltimore.
At this rally in Washington, D.C., participants chanted, "We won't stop, we can't stop, so kill a cop." We won't stop! We won't stop! We can't stop! We can't stop! So kill a cop! So kill a cop!
And that is not at all what they said. So the actual chant was, we can't stop, we won't stop, till killer cops are in cell blocks.
We won't stop! We won't stop! We can't stop! We can't stop! So kill a cop! So kill a cop! Our cell block! Our cell block!
I'm not anti-cop. There are members of my group who are, right? Because I know cops who are, as people, decent human beings.
Black Lives Matter has been subject to fake news in the sense that the media does want to sensationalize what is happening. So if there's a big, major protest, then the media isn't going to cover that. They want to cover the 20 people lighting cars on fires, flipping things over, committing violence, and other things.
Shots fired, shots fired. Getting injured out there.
There's a difference between a protest and a riot.
Burn that motherfucker down. Burn this motherfucker down. Burn it, bitch down.
So in that regard, a lot of people associated with Black Lives Matter have been discredited. But on the other hand, There was a journalist, a Korean-American journalist, Tim Pool, who went to cover the protests, which then turned out to be riots in, I believe, Milwaukee.
One of the first things we hear is the crowd getting angry and saying, what are these white people doing here? Fuck white people suck. And it culminated with an 18-year-old white kid being shot in the neck yesterday, so.
That's a problem, and that's a conversation that needs to be had.
For those that are perceivably white, it is just not safe to be here, and that's why I'm deciding to leave.
They interviewed a girl there who was yelling about how they need to stop the violence in Milwaukee.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
With his sister calling for peace.
Don't bring the violence here and the ignorance here.
But the other half of that clip was her screaming they need to bring the violence to white neighborhoods.
Y'all burning down shit we need in our community. Take that shit to the suburbs. Burn that shit down.
That is fake news right there, and it's happening every day on your TV screen, but it's hard to point out because there are bits of truth within it.
I ask people, I go, can you name a high-profile black person who had been shot by police? And people can name a few people, right? And then I say, can you think of a white person who was shot by police? No. I go, well, did you know that twice as many white people as black people are shot by police every year? And they go, well, yeah, but white people are the majority of the population. It's like, I get the statistics, right? But if twice as many white people are shot as black people, and you can't name a single white person shot by police, what does that say about the media's coverage, right?
The first thing you hear when a cop kills someone of color is their criminal history. If they're an alcoholic, they were a woman beater, they were, who knows? When a black person is killed, they're villainized, right? And when a white person is killed, they are victimized. Villainized, victimized. And that's no one else but the media.
You hear the inverse situation of complaints against the media in terms of interracial crimes, like, for instance, the Dylan Roof shooting in Charleston, and then there was a shooting in Tennessee that was like a black man shot up a church. And so people were saying, that the Charleston shooting got this big media coverage, that shooting got nothing because it was the inverse. So how would you respond to that?
I've never heard about this.
Shit is crazy. This is crazy. I don't understand why I haven't heard of this. Like, that's unbelievable. This is what's funny about the media. All the victims in Nashville were white, but it is not clear whether Sampson specifically targeted them based on their race. That's bullshit, right? It's bullshit. And this is me talking about a black person who killed white people at church. I don't understand why I never heard that story. And what's more amazing to me is I have over 4,000 friends on Facebook. I've never seen that story published. It's interesting to me.
Now, in my view, the media doesn't want to give attention to white people who are shot, because then white people might say, oh, it could happen to me too. Maybe I ought to talk to these Black Lives Matter people. Maybe we can find common cause. The media does not care about black lives. They don't care about white lives. They care about the show. And a Black Lives Matter leader who was reasonable and nuanced and wanted to talk both about rights and responsibilities would resonate with the people. And that would be very frustrating for the media. They don't want people to resonate.
The way this rally is different. This is one where it's family oriented. The message is positive. We're here to relax. We're here to have a good time.
Washington, D.C., we're standing to the right of the stage at the mother of all rallies. And we had just stepped up and people just started booing us, heckling us. We stood there defiantly with our fist in the air, chanting, Black Lives Matter. So they're chanting back, all lives matter. They're making comments. And, we saw a few people who were in Charlottesville and who we had butted heads with a few weeks prior. And out of nowhere, one of the guys said,
so what we are going to do is something you're not used to, and we're going to give you 2 minutes of our platform to put your message out.
When I got on the stage, my mind state changed. It wasn't fear, it was God, right? And something said, tell them who you are.
I am an American. Secondly, I am a Christian. The reason why we fight is to draw attention to issues and to fix it. We are not anti-cop. We are anti-bad cop. We don't want handouts. We don't want anything that's yours. We want our God-given right to freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. USA! 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 USA!
I think we really made some substantial steps without either side yielding. Here I went from being their enemy to someone they want to take pictures with their children, and that's the power of communication.
Why doesn't the media tell us this story? Why? Because people like you and I will sit down and say, let's figure this out. And guess what? It disrupts the establishment.
No. The media is never going to give that guy a platform. They want to give a platform to people that look monstrous, because then you keep everybody divided, you keep everybody paranoid, you keep everybody hysterical.
That is the problem right now with America, is the bubble. You click away and you unfollow, you separate yourself from people with contradicting views, and then you end up with this sort of snowball of your own narrative.
Your narrative should be something like, I'm constantly trying to go beyond the truth that I already hold. Because the truth that you already hold is not enough. You need to know more than you know.
If you think about what the news is, what you see in a newspaper or on TV, it's a small fraction of reality, right? There's all the things that have happened. There's all the things that they know about. There's all the things that they decided to write about. There's the things that they decided to write about that you saw, right? And it goes down and down until you're at that individual article. And so you think that when you're reading the news that you're being informed, that you're educating yourself, that you're seeing how the world is, but you're seeing such a tiny fraction of the world. And so you could argue that in a way the media is designed not to inform you, but to keep you uninformed. And that's really scary, that the bubble that we all live in that has no real higher obligation anymore to this sort of philosophical idea of truth is a scary thing. We can't even agree on reality anymore.
It's always a question to some degree, which of our partial realities is true and which of them is false. There's a world that exists beyond our comprehension of it, and so you have to lay a structure on it in order to simplify it. The role of a journalist is to lay out an unbiased simplification of the situation and to let the viewers, readers, make up their own minds. But if you introduce an act of deception into the world, it stays and it manifests itself. When you do that, you corrupt the structure of the world and you corrupt your own soul. And God help you. It's not good. It's seriously not good. And we know this if you read who I would regard as the most profound analysts of the totalitarian societies of the 20th century. They come to the same conclusion, which is that the totalitarian states would not have been possible without the moral corruption of the individuals within that society. And if you think that through, then it should make you quake in your boots. We have to restructure our value systems, and so that means going back into the past.
If ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Amen.
Here is no search for truth. The government writes the textbooks, and the children are taught to accept communism and their fate without question.
We're at a point where Judeo-Christian ethics can't die, because if it does, then our civilization is done, because its foundation blocks are of that ethic. In the story of Genesis, right at the beginning, is the idea that The essential creative element of divinity is the logos, the word, the truth. And that consciousness calls a world into being through language. That's the image of God in man, as far as I can tell. And so the words you choose determine the structure of the world that you bring into being. So we better get our acts together.
We need truth. We need truth in media. We need to open up our eyes.
The fundamental question people are going to have, which I have, is how do you know what's true or what's not true?
I wonder sometimes if there is a truth that is accessible to us. Like, I don't know if we can ever know what's truth.
Plato's allegory of the cave is one of philosophy's oldest stories and one of its best. In the story, there are people who have lived their whole lives chained in a cave, and they're forced to look at the wall. Now, behind them is a fire, and in front of the fire are various shapes, people, animals, trees. And they see, against the flickering firelight of the cave wall, these shapes, and they think that they're looking at reality. But one day, one of the men breaks his chains, and he turns his head for the first time in his life, and he looks, and he sees the shapes, and he sees the fire itself. And it's startling, and he thinks, that is real. Now I have seen what is real. Before, I only saw the flickering shadows. Now I see what is real. But then, he sees on the far side of the fire a passageway leading up. Curious, he decides to go up the stairs. And he climbs the stairs one by one, and he begins to see the lights. Not of the flickering shadows, not of the fire, not of the shapes, but of the world itself. And he sees the world for what it is. He sees the actual trees, not the shadows of trees, not the models of trees, the actual trees. He sees the sky, he sees the sun. It all becomes blindingly clear to him, and he realizes that he has spent his life imprisoned into a false reality. We are told by the media what the world is. We are told by the media what is right, what is wrong, what to believe, who to love, who to hate. These are just shadows on the wall of the cave. And then a thought comes to his mind as he regards this beauty, and he says, I must share this with the people below, with my friends, my companions, my compatriots chained in the cave. So he takes a last look to drink in the glory of everything that he sees. And then, with excitement, with joy, with anticipation, he turns back down into the cave. And he starts to tell everyone chained to the wall, this is not real, this is not real, these are illusions. And he reaches down and he tries to break their chains. And they do not thank him. They do not praise him. They do not admire his wisdom and his courage. They fight him. And they call him mad. They call him deranged, delusional, disruptive, seditious, dangerous. And he faces the choice that we all face when we learn the truth. Do we stay where we are hated, down in the dungeons, among the enslaved, mentally? Do we stay among those fixated on their screens who will not tear their eyes away from a manufactured reality to look at the world itself? Or do we go and climb those stairs again to imbibe all the glory and beauty of the natural world, leaving behind those who fight us for bringing them the truth? I say stand and fight. What is the glory of the world if we must drink it in solitude? What is the beauty of the planet if we must view it alone? We have an obligation, if we have seen the truth, to wrestle the lies from the minds of those stuck in the cave. The cave is the manufactured reality of those who would control us by controlling what we think. But fundamentally, you can't control what someone thinks, because once they think, they are beyond your control.
Look at the hell that's been brewing, as they cry you cheat and you steal, preaching from one of your limos. You struggle just paying their bills. You know you're high and you're mighty. Is it best if we all whittle down for fortune and power and devious deeds? Winners are chosen, you still won't concede. Final fight for what you believe. If it's anything, well, there's proof in the battlefield. You suck profits from all that are killed, but we've got our faith back. And we're tired of messing around. We're tired of losing our feet on the ground. So tired we're taking you down and strip you away from that media crown. I know you'll keep selling us fear. Don't you forget that your ending is near. And you know, no matter what you say, your hoax is on display. We're a light in your darkest cave, and our fire won't go away. If what's right was on your mind, why's the truth so hard to find? Might be poor, but we're not blind. What you've given is second sight. Look at your tiny retraction. You've already gotten the views. Those methods that keep us divided. How else would you spread your fake news? Shilling your way through a story while calling them scoops on the air. We pray for our youth, but why would you care? Searching for honor in all our despair. Rather be famous, pretend like you're there, and it's never fair. So we've leveled the playing fields. You'll keep pushing till someone gets killed, but we've got our strength back. We're tired of messing around. We're tired of losing our men to the ground. We're tired of screaming out loud. We're tired of living our lives in the cloud. Go on and sell us your fear, but look how we bask in our enemies' tears. As we're told to shut up and let you play with our hearts in a twisted game, while your lies all stay the same, and we call you by your name. As your hoax is on the